So how is everyone doing?
Great.
Great, thank you. So pretty good to have Yorick here and presented FastMCP because it's like surfing on the FastMCP for my presentation. So now everyone is on the same node that you should know FastMCP, so it shouldn't be a problem. So yeah, so anyone vibe coding lately? No? Yeah, I guess. If you're not, try it, it's fun. So I'm gonna talk about Claude Swarm. Claude Swarm, which is a tool that we created a few months ago, and I just wanted to share with you what we did. But as you know, AI goes pretty fast, so maybe some of you might find it's kind of obsolete, or there's already the equivalent on the market, even as open source. But just keep in mind that what I'm gonna show you it was released in May, so you know May is far in the AI world, so just keep in mind about it. So I'm gonna start my presentation with a quote that was my wife found it, and she said, "You know what? This is you actually every day, which is taking AI, asking questions, and just you know uh, asking AI to do stuff and review it, and then making changes." But I don't know if it's the future, but I guess everyone, maybe some of you are doing this, but this is something real that goes today. So hi everyone, bonsoir. My name is Eric Proulx. Actually was born in Canada, but I moved to Paris in 2019, so just before COVID. I've been involved in the Ruby on Rails community for more than 11 years. You can find me on GitHub as Eric Proulx, which is easy. I'm a maintainer for Ruby Grape. I don't know if anyone is familiar with that gem. It's used by GitLab, if you know it. Yeah, so it's really I like this gem. Claude Swarm, obviously, and recently I just my first PR got merged in FastMCP that Yorick presented. So yeah, and not to mention that I recently joined Shopify. So I've worked more than 10 years for a company, but you know, in May. So you get the gist of what's going on with Claude Swarm. Yeah, let's start. Just an agenda. So the QR code is actually Claude Swarm repo on GitHub. So I divided my talk in 5 chapters. So the first one is just why Claude Swarm. And keep in mind, just in May, it was a different story than today. Second, orchestrating, how it works, just the inside of the internals of what Claude Swarm do. Third, I'm gonna present a live demo of what it does. I mean, it's a CLI, so don't get too excited about it. You know, it's a terminal screen, but yeah, well, at least you will understand what it does. Fourth, limitations, because you know it's a tool. It doesn't do anything. It's not perfect. So I just want to share limitations about the current Claude Swarm version. And then last, the future of it, because AI is moving so fast, so we need to adapt, and it's going to be exciting. So we're just going to share it with all of you. So the old way. I'm starting with the old way because I think everyone who's been really involved in AI knows 2 things, and Yorick mentioned it about it. Single LLM are expected to manage long and multiple step tasks. It's not that great. I mean, the context window gets bigger and bigger. You ask for more, but then it does something totally different that you were prompting. So single LLM, it works. I mean, don't get me wrong, it does. But when it comes to complex workflows, well, you need something just a bit better. And then I don't know if you had any projects in your company or just as a personal project, if you hit the wall of just, you know what, I just need something else to have a better results. Not just talking about, you know, upgrading my models, but just the workflow and the determinism of LLMs. So just want to mention that I had, while, you know, creating this talk, I had a conversation with my wife, and I was explaining to her like what is Claude Swarm, what it does, and you know the problem with the single LLM. And she said, you know what, it's like about Rocky Balboa and you know something else. But I was okay, but we can say that Claude Swarm is just the new way, which is the expendables. which makes total sense for her. Like, yeah, it's like just a single hero, and now you got a bunch of heroes. But this is the idea behind the expendables, and this is really the best. Pop culture reference, I could say that the single LM model, it works, but when you got a team, sometimes you can do better. So this is the idea behind the this expandable thing. So back in May, when I joined Shopify, we had a hack day, and during that hack day, one of my esteemed colleagues said, I just released a new project called Claude Swarm, and it's just solving all our issues, because you could imagine that Shopify has many projects involving AI, and we're all hitting the same problem with LLMs. I mean, you get even the newest models, like, no, we got an issue. So you say, you know what? Let's divide and conquer. I mean, everyone, with computer science knows what is divide and conquer. It's a great concept that you can apply to anything, and it works for LLMs also. So the idea was to say, let's start with, a single LLM and split it to specialized experts. So the idea is, if you got a big workflow, as you can imagine, you say, I need a GitHub expert, I need a Zendesk expert, I need a test writer expert, I need a judges, I need so many things. I mean, it goes beyond what you can imagine, the kind of workflow you can do. So I know some of you might say, well, today, is it still relevant what you're talking about? I mean, your tool, Claude Swarm. Well, no, back in May, sub-agents, if you're familiar with Claude Code and what they're releasing, so they released sub-agents where you can add the same kind of concept in Claude Code, but they did it in July. And we were like we released Claude Swarm in May. So we were kind of before they released it for real. And if you don't trust me, you can you can check this QR code with the Y, which is News Hacker. And when they released it, the first comment is about Claude Swarm. So just to check it out. The other QR code, which is interesting, it's a recent paper from Microsoft who talk about more of the healthcare system, and having LLMs to like having a diagnostic of someone. And they published a paper about what is the best solution right now with their orchestration workflow. So instead of having one single LLM, as you can imagine, they say, you know what, we could say we have a LLM that is ChatGPT. But I guess they're not doing this because this is Microsoft and they're using their own tools. But you get the idea of having multiple specialized LLMs that would give a diagnostic and someone to revise it. So this is the idea. So yeah, the orchestration. So how does it work? So first, there's the main instance, which is the conductor. Second, it's the delegation. And this is where I jump to the MCP world that Eric just explained, because the solution back in the time was clever to say there's nothing really easy in Ruby, I would say, to connect different kind of models easily. And MCP was a solution, because MCP, as Eric explained, it's a bunch of tools, but you don't know what is it behind the tools. So just imagine you popped a MCP server, and behind the MCP server is another agent who does something else, and it's a different model. So the idea is you can build whatever you want with almost any model that you want, and ask those models as a workflow. So you can imagine the orchestrator will say, I need to do this, 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 and then we'll delegate those tasks to those specialized experts. And not to mention that this looks like it's going just in one way. So there's the orchestrator and there's just a bunch of experts. But you can imagine also that an expert need another expert. So you can create any kind of configuration with it. So this is just like like a microservices kind of way. So yeah, just taking back to MCP is king. This is the way we used to just communicate with LLMs. They don't know. I mean, every single expert doesn't know it's talking to another agent. This is the idea behind it. So MCP was our first choice to do it. I mentioned that could be any kind of models. Yeah, this is true, but as you know, companies have their own specs. I mean, OpenAI has their OpenAI specs, but Gemini from Google has different APIs, and Llama and everything. You know, it's a crazy world out there. But some companies like Google Gemini or just Google, they added specs for the OpenAI specs. So you could imagine that you would say, I'm gonna call a Gemini, whatever the model, but through the ChatGPT API, but they just implemented it so you can use it. So the idea of Claude Swarm, even though it's called Claude, yeah, you can have different kind of models and, you know, call them without knowing. I mean, each of them doesn't know that they're talking to another agent. So this is the idea that we had. I can do a live demo of it, but the idea, I think everyone gets what is it? But it's just a CLI. So everyone is interested to just a little demo. I'm just gonna create something very quickly. So as I mentioned, Claude Swarm depends on FastMCP. So what I did is, so I just cloned FastMCP. I have a fork of it. And I just asked Claude Swarm with a simple command, just init, as it would do on Claude Code. And then it would create a YAML file, which is showing here. And in that YAML file, some of you like, or some of you just do not like YAML, but you get the idea. It's very easy to just represent your swarm of agents. So it's just instances, your lead developer, and you can have a bunch of them. So this is just an example, but in this example, you could say you got a front-end developer, you got a back-end developer, and a DevOps engineer, a QA engineer, all those kind of things at once. So this is the idea. There are other commands that you could say, which is generate. So one thing that I've learned since I joined Shopify is like, maybe I'm not the best to prompt things. So why not ask the LLM, say, what if I want a Rails expert? Or what if I want a fast MCP expert in this project? So going back to the vibe coding, let's say you want to vibe code fast MCP. So you can just say, I'm going to create a bunch of agents specialized in maybe every single dependency, depends on your needs, but the generate command will help you generate different kinds of experts and say, you know what, this is too much. Like, I don't need an architect. I don't need this. I don't need that. You know, it's all depending on what do you want. But at least it gets a good head start when you don't know how to start it. Yeah, so just won't wait until the LLM has finished, but you get the idea of what Claude Swarm is doing. Yeah. Yeah, so the Hive isn't perfect yet. So as I was saying, this is a project from a hack day. So you could imagine there's, you know, some round corners about the code if you're reading it, and some limitations that I want to say it. First, it depends on Claude Code. So Claude Code fronts as the CLI. It's limited to Anthropic and OpenAI models, so it's not directly, you cannot directly connect to a, like say, a Google Gemini, but I mean, they have a, I think you can call Gemini through the OpenAI spec, sorry, just confusing all the time. But you can just set an URL, you can set a token, and you could say, just try it out. But you can imagine you can create any kind of tools to adapt those kind of models. The cost, as Eric mentioned, so the more tools you have, the bigger prompts you have. I mean, cost, you need a budget. I'm just saying, you really need a budget. Even though you can define a precise workflow to the main orchestrator, let's say, doesn't mean that it will do exactly as prompted. So everyone, or at least me, I've experienced non-deterministic ways to the LLM. So it's not always deterministic as a line of codes. So this is, you know, those kind of things that can happen in the AI world. What's next? So as I mentioned, this is a CLI, and we're currently working on the SDK. So the SDK is like you can create your own swarm through code, and you can export it in YAML if you want, but it just gives a better idea of, you know, having a CLI. You can build your own CLI and just, you know, use the swarm in code. So swarm as MCPs, as mentioned by Rorik. So MCPs, so you could say, instead of having just a tool, which is an agent behind, you can imagine like, can I have a swarm of agents behind that tool? Still think about the budget, but you can do it. It's just having an easy way to say, create a MCP server that will serve the swarm. We're kind of saying goodbye to fast MCP connections, sorry, but we're switching to Ruby LLM to just have a single process and manage all those instances, because Ruby LLMs can do it directly with async and fibers and all those stuff. So it's just faster. But thank you for fast MCP. It's really helpful. So yeah, the other slide is just one process, many hats. So today, you could imagine like if you have a swarm of agents, like 8 agents, it's different processes communicating, there's the logs, there's so many things going around that having just one single process, way easier, way faster. Any questions, any idea? I got a bunch of them showing if you have.
How much do you spend monthly on cloud?
I cannot say. Oh. Sorry, but I cannot say. But everyone knows Shopify is an AI first company, so I can let you imagine. And this is just me.
We have one question from the live chat. Do you think it will be possible to connect it with a local LM, for example, with Olama? Or
Currently, I think it would be possible, but it will need some tweaks. Like, is it like OpenAI spec friendly? I don't know, to be honest. But the next version of Claude Swarm, because this is the 1.0, but the second one with the SDK, if Ruby LLM can do it, then Claude Swarm can do it. Yep.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.